Welcome to A Stranger, a Suitcase and a Story. I'm Anton van Ben. This is a podcast about starting over. It is about what it takes to leave the familiar behind and the courage it takes to begin again in a land that isn't yet home. Together with my co-host Ben Liebenberg, we explore the untold stories of migration. Not just where people went, but why they left, what they held on to, and what they've had to let go. Each episode, we sit down with someone who's made that leap. Someone who's left behind not just places, but languages, careers, communities, and sometimes even parts of themselves. They share what called them forward, what nearly held them back, and what they've come to understand about identity, belonging, and starting again. Produced in partnership with Southern Crossings, a community for South Africans forging new lives in Australia, this podcast is a place to feel seen, heard, and understood. Because this isn't just about visas or paperwork. It's about identity, loss, hope, and the quiet strength it takes to rebuild a life piece by piece. So wherever you are on your journey, arriving, settling, or still thinking about it, welcome. This is where stories connect us all.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This information to customers travelling on the Land Airways flight LA 800 question 321 service to Auckland and Santiago.
Welcome to A Stranger, a Suitcase and a Story. I'm Anton van Ben, and with me is my co-host and fellow pioneer, Ben Liebenberg. And Ben, last time we spoke, you were in Ballarat actually, and I believe you are traveling again, right?
Yep, just moved down to Melbourne for the weekend.
Yeah,
traveling
that's
back
nice.
up next week. Yeah, nice year. Melbourne's a nice city, great city.
Yes. What do you like most about Melbourne?
The way back home, I suppose.
The way back
No,
home.
that's just what city people say. No, it's an easy city, clean city, livable. That's a word, I suppose.
Yeah.
Spent my first 10 years, I think, in Australia. We spent in Melbourne, so fond memories.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I love the city. We stayed there for 3 years as well. But anyway, this podcast is where we unpack the real stories of migration, identity, and belonging. Whether you've made the leap, are thinking about it, or simply curious, you're in the right place. Each story reveals what we hold on to, what we leave behind, and what we find along the way. Today we're joined by someone whose journey brings a new heart and perspective to it all. I think also a bit of humor today. So we've got Kaveer Soni with us. Now, Kaveer was born in a Hindu household in Durban and spent his first few years in a Jewish school. And he said that he had to learn Hebrew, which he forgot already, and he went to shul and did the Jewish studies. And then at some point in time, he got taken out of the Jewish school and then put into a Catholic school. And there he learned the Catholic religion, went to Mass and do all that sort of stuff, and then also participated in another religion, which is a religion for all of us, which is called rugby. And then after that, before he ended school, he went off to the US and suddenly ended up in a school with 4,000 kids. So, Kaveer, that's quite amazing. And you're only 17 by then, right? And so Kaveer is a lawyer. He came across to Sydney, founded his own lawyer's firm called Soni Legal. He's a commercial law firm, and Soni also have rights of appearance in both the South African High Court as well as the Australian High Court. So, Kaveer, thank you very much for joining. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion today. Welcome.
Thanks, Anton. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I think it's one of those chats. I always like to start off with the beginning, but I think we can have a chat, but normally want to talk about how you immigrated and how you got there and how you found the journey. But I think with you, we might do episode just on your childhood and where you're from, and because it's so interesting, it's this unbelievable story already. So tell us a little bit about give us a bit of background. What happened there, and how did that happen that you managed to do all that? And where were you born? You were born in Durban, Anton said, but to a big family, small family. How did that all happen?
So I was born in Durban. My family is actually quite big. So in fact, if I go back to my ancestry, my great-grandfather moved from India to Durban about 3 or 4 generations back as an orphan without his parents. His uncle brought him over. Wow. And as an only child, he wanted a big family. I've lost count of how many cousins I've got. I've got so many relatives all around Durban, all around the world. But every time we go to Durban, whenever we have a function or a wedding, it's massive. So yeah, no, it's quite a big family, and looking back at it, I had quite an interesting upbringing.
Yeah. So where did you fit in? What number and?
I'm the firstborn to my dad, and he was like the second last born of 6 kids.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I remember, my wife Leanne also, she went pre-primary to a Jewish school, and she was always telling that, I don't know why they sent her there. I suppose she was quite an active person, so they had to send her somewhere, and the closest one was a Jewish pre-primary school. And she was saying that there were several things that she participated in, and then some things that she was not allowed to participate in because she wasn't Jewish, and that she still talks about it today. So I think it left a bit of a scar. I don't know, how was it for you? Because of course, Hindu, you obviously were practicing the religion at home as well, from a Hindu point of view, but then you go to a Jewish primary school. How did you deal with that?
So I think I went to Jewish schools sometimes when apartheid was still a thing, and I think it was the Jewish schools that kind of said that we're going to take in the Indians, just in defiance of the government, essentially. And so there was quite a few of my friends that I have still till today, of Indian background, all from the Jewish school as well. So yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it. But in terms of participating, I participated in everything. Like I was since primary school, before year 1, and I loved it. Like it was for me, it was normal. Like I was a kid, I didn't really understand what any barriers, essentially. So what I learned was like, oh, okay, this is normal. And so yeah, everything that they did in terms of Passover, in terms of every Friday they observed the Sabbath in the school, and then having challah and that as for lunch. That was a normal thing for us at school. So we weren't really made to feel out of place at all. We actually participated with everybody. So there wasn't that separation. So yeah.
So how old were you when you left the school?
So that school, in fact, I was hoping that I'd matriculate in that school. And I stayed. So that school was in Durban North, and then it went up to standard 1 or grade 3, and then we had to go to Glenwood or something to the bigger school, which is the same school's bigger campus there. And up until grade 4, it was still Carmel College, which was the Jewish school, and then Crawford took it over. And for me, it was somewhat relieving because I wasn't managing in Hebrew. It was a very difficult subject for me to learn. I used to write it back in grade 1, but I was struggling by the time I got to grade 4. But then my parents didn't really think Crawford was the right fit for what they wanted, and they said that I was actually in a lot of trouble when it was Crawford. I was in the principal's office every 2 weeks, regularly for something or the other. I don't know what it was, but like how it happens. But we were always doing something, whether it's swinging from branches and trees, or I used to be this little kid picking fights with the year 11s, just because I could, or because I wanted to. And yeah, I found myself in the principal's office and together with a few of my friends, and it was always the same group. And I said, just wait, I'll do the talking. And every time I did the talking, they're like, oh, come on, it can't be us like that did that.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. And we got away with it all the time.
So
I'm like,
that's so that's how you developed your skills as a lawyer, was it?
pretty much. I think so. I think that had a lot to do with it. Because what happened, there was a period where we were actually quite good. We were well behaved for like a month.
A full
Yeah.
month.
So the principal got worried and came to check if we were okay.
Okay.
So my parents didn't like it. They're like, no, you're getting out of that school and we're putting you into a school where there's more rules and discipline. And they put me into Morris Brothers, which
Okay.
also shaped my upbringing and was quite, and I think I just had a fantastic childhood looking back. Like at the time it was just like school, like, oh my gosh. But yeah, it just gave me more exposure, more exposure to different aspects of the world and how, and people. So
Yeah, and I mean, you during that, you finished your school. You had to repeat 9 because obviously you went to the US and then the time difference in terms of how the year work. And then you went there across over to in year 9. That was obviously with you. Did your father then, or your family go across for work there, or how did that work?
So interestingly, my parents. Well, I went the year before. This was 2001. So in 2000, we went on holiday to the US and to Disney World, and I think my parents were taking a walk down International Drive in Orlando in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m, some ungodly hour, and then they're like, you know what? I'm feeling so safe over here. I'm not feeling any, like looking over my shoulder or anything like that. This is great. Let's move. And that time my father had a petrol station, and I think he had about 3 or 4 robberies or something like that. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, and then he's like, you know what? That's it. Let's do it. So in the next year we moved over essentially, and he went to scout it out. And the advice he got was for my schooling is that I should come in year 9 and repeat year 9 instead of trying to push up to year 10. Because their high school starts at year 9, they don't have a full curriculum of
Okay.
subjects, and then I can graduate properly. So that worked out well. So I did year 9 in South Africa or grade 9 in South Africa from January to August, and then restarted in August to June, the following year.
So that must have been your first experience, if I think about it now. I mean, going from South Africa to the US in a school of 4,000 kids, right?
Yeah.
That must have been your first experience of being a stranger in another country and trying to find your feet, right?
Definitely. So that is when I have. When I went there, I was given the option of going to a private school there, which had school uniforms and the like, or we went to the public school, and the public school had no school uniforms and a lot of good girls. So I was like, maybe I should go to the public school. And it's just so yeah, that was the subliminal reason, and also because they had no school uniforms, they dressed quite pleasingly.
Yes.
There was a bit of a dress code, but yeah, it looked a lot more fun. So I said, let's
Yes.
go to that one.
So how was that transition? How was that transition in terms of adapting? Was it very different? Was it very similar? Was it easy to adapt going over to the States or not?
It was my first experience leaving Durban. In fact, I remember I actually had a dream where I got up in my house in Durban and I got up and brushed my teeth and I went to school, and then I actually woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not at home. I'm somewhere else completely. And I realized I'm never going back to that house. It's gone. It's sold. And that was like when it kind of hit me a little bit emotionally. And then I was like, okay, get over this. You got to get to school. And yeah, but I think that kind of made me a little bit more resilient going there. And then it was a little bit more difficult in that you're going in high school where a lot of kids already went through middle school and they already have their friends and their friend circle, and you go into a place where in a sea of people. And nobody wants to talk to you because they all have their own cliques. And we just had to go and, like, it took me 2 weeks before anyone even acknowledged I existed and even said hello. So I was like, okay.
So that must have prepared you for Australia, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, I think it did to a great extent. Yeah.
But I think you came back, right? Was the idea from your dad in the beginning to migrate there permanently? And what happened? Why did you guys come back to South Africa?
Yes, so we were there on a visa. My dad had a business there, and then they applied for the permanent residency, and then it was taking forever to process. And we were sending him documents, we were sending him bundles of documents, and they were sending it back because we paid more than we were supposed to. And I'm like, just take the change and process the documents. Come on.
Yeah.
So there were so many things that just there was no clear path to PR. Well, there was a path to PR, but it wasn't clear. And then my father was just by then fed up. He wanted to buy property, and he said, "No, I don't know what I'm going to do. Whether I can buy property or not buy property. Do I even have rights to stay longer?" And he's like, "But I'm a South African citizen. I can start buying property in Durban." And he went back and he bought his his properties over there and started building his property portfolio there.
Okay.
So-
I wondered about that because it means it's not easy to get in there. I mean, you need to really jump through hoops to get all the paperwork and get everything and get accepted, isn't it? From my limited knowledge of getting in there.
It is. It's not very clear. We had migration agents over there who advised us. We followed it. We got the visas, but we're still waiting on the green card, and and then we changed it from migration agents to migration lawyers. Yeah, still there was nothing fast tracking it, and so we were just effectively there illegally, but in limbo. So that's what influenced my decision to come to Australia instead. When we made the second decision, because Australia's migration was at the time very clear. You meet these requirements, you qualify for the PR visa. So we, of course, met the requirements. I got the PR visa, and we came in, and I was like, I understood more than my wife what an achievement that is to get that because of the American experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. But what made you went out to the US, came back, and then what made you decide that you want to immigrate? And firstly, and secondly, what made you decide why Australia? I mean, you could have gone to England, right?
Yeah. So we moved back to Durban when my father made his decisions, and I decided I'm not going to stay in the US and put a financial burden on him, especially with the exchange rate. I was still a kid. I was still in school. I finished school. I was still a uni student. So I said, look, we'll all move back. Yeah, and then I met my wife, and that's a story in its own that will probably take another podcast. But long story short,
you can't say that and leave it on the table. I'm really sorry. You can give us the high
Give
level,
us a short version, yes.
Okay, one paragraph
the short version
version.
is I met my wife on a family holiday in Sun City completely randomly.
Right.
And I was in Sun City with about 27 of my family members, and friends, and I got bored of every one of them, and I saw another friend or acquaintance of mine, and I said, come on, let's go to the bar. And then we saw this group of girls, and we crashed their party. So
Okay.
and in that group was I don't know it at the time, but a very good looking girl, and I couldn't get my eyes off her. And then we exchanged numbers, and I found out she lives in Joburg and I live in Durban. I'm like, nothing's going to come of this. And she calls me randomly out the blue, and I forgot who it was that called. But anyways, I started don't tell her, who are you? I started asking the fishing questions until it hit me. It's the girl from Sun City. I'm like, oh yes, that's right. And then we kept on chatting, and then eventually she convinced me to leave and go to Johannesburg, and I did that in a weekend, essentially.
Okay.
I just told my dad, I'm moving to Joburg. It's like, why? College. And he's like, okay. Like, yeah. And I did find a college for Dad to go to. So he's like, yeah, okay. But yeah, it's a great college. They're very well in their marketing outcomes and all that. Let me try them out. When you're moving, I can go this weekend. Yeah, ended up moving to Joburg and lived in Joburg ever since, and ended up marrying the girl that I met there. And gosh, we lived together for a good She's going to come here. 2012 we were married, so in 2016 we left. So 6 years. No,
Wow. Okay.
no, 4 years. And then and then we decided, and then we moved to before we moved to Sydney. So sorry, we were married for 4 years in Joburg, and yeah. So
But you let
yeah,
me let me stop you there for a sec. Otherwise, I don't want to go to Sydney yet. I've not traveled to Sydney yet. I'm still in South Africa. So you're a lawyer. So obviously you qualified yourself. You probably
yes,
got LLB. So
yes.
who did you do that through? And
So
what is your main interest in the from being a lawyer in terms of your main interest items or agendas that you're after as being a lawyer?
I think I knew I was going to be a lawyer back in primary school. Um, I don't know why. I just had that
We
sense.
already
Yeah.
established that, Your Honor. We knew that when you were negotiating your way out of all the drama. So we've established that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I decided, look, let me do a BCom. So I did a BCom first,
Yeah.
and that's when I just got back from Orlando, from Florida, and then moved back to Durban. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the university situation here? I really don't know. And then that time, like, I got into Natal. I got the exemption and the bridging and all that. That was its own. I was like migrating back to South Africa and doing that, its own thing in a small way. Um, but I was just hearing that UNISA is actually more internationally recognized, and I think I was like, well, okay, let me go with UNISA. And I'm like, cool, where's the campus? It's like, there is no campus. I was like, what?
Yeah, there
So
you go.
then I actually ended up signing up with UNISA and then going and taking lessons with the third-party service providers and getting the actual lecturing and education through them. And that's how I managed to convince my father that, no, there's another third-party service provider in Joburg, which there was, and they were actually very good. I think I got mostly distinctions um, through my degrees. So yeah, so they were actually quite good. Yeah.
So okay, so let's take a step forward then. You then studied and started working there. You working in a lawyer's firm. Did you do your articles or what did you do?
Yeah, so I when I got my LLB, so I got the BCom then the LLB. Um, I was looking for work wherever I could, and it was very difficult to get articles. And eventually, I ended up taking articles under a liquidator and a lawyer in Rosebank. And so I served articles with a guy named Shirish Kalyan. I think he has quite a good reputation amongst the insolvency practitioners in Joburg. Yeah, and over there I actually got a lot of my grounding. So everything I do in the way I run my files is all started from there. And that's I mean, and from there, after I finished the articles, it was time to move along. And then I worked for another law firm that had kind of a general practice, so a little bit more than the specialized insolvency and litigation practice from that I came from. And we tried a little bit of everything, criminal law, family law, and the like, but I wasn't the pay wasn't great at all in South Africa. The pay is not great. And when I mentioned that to any Australians, they just get a shock as to how much I got paid. I was like, well, it is what it is. And then I decided, look, the best thing for me to do is to open my own law firm. So I opened my own law firm in Norwood, in Joburg, just shortly after I got admitted. And then I had pretty much all this overheads. I had rent and everything else to pay, and nothing and no clients. So I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah, that's
Well,
the thing. What happens when you set up a business, right?
exactly. So then I'm like, well, you know what? Let's just go at it. And then we negotiated like a rent that just steps up every 2 months or something like that. Until who I was renting from got what he wanted. So kind of helped me out in getting that.
And what did you specialize in, Kaveer?
That time I did everything. I just took whatever job. I was doing bail applications at 10 o'clock at night. I was doing family law. I was doing contracts. I was doing anything that came through the door. And it took me about a year or two before I figured, you know what, I'm not really enjoying criminal law. It's too messy, especially in South Africa. Wasn't really enjoying family law. I was spending more time being a psychologist than I was being a lawyer. But business law was like where and contracts was where I feel like this is actually my area. This is where I feel most comfortable in. This is what I understand. I come from a line of business owners. Yeah, and I was working in my parents' and my family's various businesses that throughout my entire life. So yeah, that's how I said, let me just focus on the business end of law. Once I did that, I saw like my entire practice just got a lot better, a lot easier to manage because it's what I like to do. It a lot more, and I just got the reputation, like a good reputation as to how this is the person who comes up with your contracts or whatever it was at the time. And then I got onto the panel of liquidators. And
Of course, because that's where you started, right?
yeah, because I worked under a liquidator. I was like, well, I kind of understand insolvency, so let me just work on that aspect because and I became a member of SARIPA, which is the South African insolvency professional body, and consequently with INSOL, which is the international insolvency professional body, and then also, I was the lawyer, and then everything was going great. And I had my first child. I actually opened the law firm after, in the same year my son was born.
Okay.
In South Africa.
That's a big step, eh?
Yeah. So I had a baby, no secured income,
Oh, yeah.
and just wing it. Yeah. So
How long did you work then in your own practice before you then came across to Sydney?
So
came
that
across to
practice,
Australia.
yeah, that practice started in 2013, middle of 2013, and then I moved to Australia at the beginning of 2016 and shut the practice down at the end of the financial year there, which was 28th February. So, about just over 2 years I had that my practice in South Africa, and I took advice from the person I serve articles on there. So what should I do with the practice? And he said, look, just focus on Australia and just shut it down in an orderly fashion, but shut it down properly. So I shut that practice down, and came back and did the move to Australia, which there was a year in which I was unemployed because I was still bridging. So,
Right.
yeah.
So could you work during that year or not?
No, I could work. It was just very difficult for me to find any work because one, I was not a lawyer here in Sydney or in Australia. But I'm like, okay, well, what about support work? What about a paralegal or legal secretary or something?
Yeah.
Like, no, you're overqualified for that. Is everything just check a box? Like, so I'm like, let me just focus on passing when I have to pass and get going.
All right. Yeah. So you had to requalify and do all that stuff. So how did you enjoy working for yourself?
I personally feel comfortable working for myself.
Yeah.
I don't mind spending time, like, I don't mind spending the late nights working on the business, and sometimes the late nights, the weekends, and whatever it takes to get it up and running and get it going and moving. So that's, I don't know. I don't know whether some people calls that a sucker for punishment or some people calls that ambition, but yeah.
You definitely need to have it in you. Not everybody can do it. Yeah, it's not everybody that enjoy that kind of things. Yeah, I think you do have that in you or not. That's just my view.
Yeah, no, thanks. I think so. I think I'd like to swing for the fences wherever I can.
So tell us, I mean, it's quite important, this piece, because not everybody knows that. I know that medical doctors have to do certain things, or if you're a specialist, you can't just walk into Australia and specialize and, do what you have to do. So as a lawyer, it's not like you can walk in here and you're qualified in South Africa and you can practice law here, right? What do you have to do?
So I came here in 2015 before we actually moved, and I went and did my research. And what I found is I had to take all my qualifications and like and get it assessed here in by the Legal Profession Admissions Board. So I gave them everything that when I got here, and they gave me the whole letter as to these are the we accepting pretty much every subject that you've done, and you just need to do on the academic side these three subjects, and on the practical legal training side you need to go for ethics. And I'm like, is that because I'm a South African you're sending me for ethics?
Probably.
Oh, very good.
Well, they obviously said no. That's not the reason, right?
No, I think they refused to answer.
Okay. Yeah.
Very good.
But yeah, so I was prepared for that. And then my wife was also, she's an occupational therapist, and we actually came in on her strength, and she never lets me hear the end of that one. It's like, oh yeah, how did we get to Australia? And who's academic? I could have came in on my own. I just had to get a student visa first.
You know, you're not on your own, Kaveer. I mean, I think Ben is the same story.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on the same boat. My wife had more points than me, so ultimately we qualified on her points. In any case,
Yep.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, it felt awkward saying my visa is a dependent. So I'm like, I'm a dependent. That felt awkward saying that.
So why did you come to Australia and not anywhere else? I mean, you clearly probably wanted to leave South Africa. Am I correct?
Actually, it was a wild idea thrown at me, and I remember this very distinctly that my son was still 2 years old, and we were living in Joburg, and I fly him to Durban from time to time if one of my cousins is going down. So one of my cousins was flying down, and I handed him over, and I'm like, go on and go to your grandparents. And I call my dad, and I'm like, all right, Raul's on his way, and he'll be there in the next hour or two. And so my dad, okay, right, that's great. Why don't you look at moving to Australia? I'm like, what? I just got onto the panel of liquidators. I just built up this practice.
You mean out of the blue? He says this.
Kind of out of the blue. So I think somebody from here moved over and said that, hey, maybe your son should look at moving there. And then he just relayed that message, and I was like, and because I did the move to the US before, it wasn't as daunting for me. I was like, actually, let me think about this. And I actually took a whole morning off from work, and I just sat down and I just kept on writing in a journal, like, what am I doing? What do I want to do? And I think I wrote a good few, I think I filled up a notepad on every aspect of life, essentially. And then, I had a great in South Africa, where I had had the BMWs, had two of them, had the house in Saxonwold, had all of the, got onto the panel, liquidated. It was comfortable. But I was like, well, you know what? Everything in South Africa is, most of the things you do with a contact, essentially. And do I want to raise my, and organically, what does I teach my kids, essentially? And my son was 2 years old back then. And I'm like, is there a future for him here where he can organically create his own opportunity? And essentially, I was like, well, not really, because, like, do I make this decision for the next 30 years and then we live comfortably, and then, if South Africa does go further pear-shaped, I'll be too old, and it'll be my children's problem whether they want to move or not. So, like, no, let's make this decision for the next 100 years plus, and let's get them the opportunity and do the move now. And where do we move? And so Australia was put in my head at the get-go. But I considered Canada and the UK and America, and then just because I knew how difficult it was just to get through the bureaucracy and the paperwork in America. I mean, I would love to, but there's no certainty, and I'm not going to do that with absolutely no certainty. Canada was vetoed by my wife immediately. She's like, nope, there's no way we're going to get any. There's no way you're putting me into a cold climate.
Okay.
So the same thing went for the UK, and yeah.
But it's amazing. Anton and I speak to a lot of people, and how common that theme is. It's I think a lot of people think of Canada, and that's the only reason why they don't go there is just because of the weather. Otherwise, they'll be there.
Yeah, in fact, I got quite a bit of family in Canada, and my wife's cousin actually moved there since, and she was in touch with him, and he was like, "It is cold. It is. I got to shovel snow. I got to do all these things," and it didn't paint the rosy picture. So I was like, so I'm like, "Well, you graduated moved to Australia?" He's like, "Yeah."
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your first. So the first year or so, you were qualifying yourself, finishing subjects, and whatever else. But how was your integration into Australia? How did you find that? What was hard for you?
The hardest part was actually my convincing my wife. I mean, she kind of walked into a job because of her occupation, being an occupational therapist. I think within 6 weeks she managed to find a job, and that too we did the South African thing and we called whoever we knew and just found the contact to get her something, to get her started, and eventually we managed to secure her a job. And then I was like, great, like one of us is working, then getting our child into school or daycare about back then, and then they said, okay, well, this is the price. I'm like,
You have to find employment just to get your child into
is
childcare,
this
right?
yeah, is this per month or what is it? No, it's a day price. And so essentially I figured that we're working to keep the child occupied. Um, yeah, but we came in on the PR on the 189 because of the wife, and she never let me forget that. So we managed to get all the government support to assist with the daycare fees, and
Okay.
we got him in. But I don't think we actually integrated until probably the second year or so, because the first year we were just literally finding our feet. Where do we go? What do we do? Like, I didn't even know exactly where I was on the map in relation to anything else.
Mm.
So we were living, like, I'm not too sure how well you know Sydney, but we were living first in McMahon's Point.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
that too, I'll get to that story as to how we got there. But I tried to, for some odd reason, Google Coles to find the equivalent of a ShopRite, and it the Coles North Sydney didn't come up, and I was like, okay, well, so we ended up going to Darling Harbour, and we ended up going to the Coles out in like by Piermont. We took the ferry across.
Yeah, I know exactly which one. It's like as you stop there with the ferry, you're into that building. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
bottom.
So we had a 3-year-old child by then. He was 3. So we had the pram. We took the ferry across. We bought everything we needed. We loaded the pram. We carried the baby. We came back to, we saw Darling Harbour and made a thing of it. But then we ended up at the end of the day going there, then getting back on the ferry and pushing the pram with the goods back up to where we were staying, we were living in. Like, it's got to be something. And it turns out there was a Coles just up the road from us. I was like,
Yeah,
okay.
it would be. I don't know how it didn't come up. Anyway, it's a good story.
So yeah, when I say we were finding our feet, I'm like, it was,
Mm.
yeah, it got to those kind of stages. And it was also quite difficult, especially for my wife, because my wife was an only child. Because she was an only child, the parents wasn't really keen on her leaving, and she's been living in Johannesburg her entire life, essentially. So there was a lot of emotional blackmail thrown into the mix. And I'm like, just see the bigger picture. Just it's like we're looking generations down. We're not looking just for a good quick party here. It's like just
But that's tough. I mean, that's tough. Hey,
she
it's
came
tough
kicking and
on-
screaming.
Yeah, and you can imagine from the other side as well, being an only child, it'll be tough on the parents as well.
It was like I guess when people look from the outside in, they think it's all rosy and, oh well, now you're earning Australian dollars is 12 to 1 in terms of rands and all that, which is nice, which is right, and it's great, but it's not easy. It's like doing the move itself has so many of its own challenges, and it's like we had so many personal challenges in 2016 when we moved from when we landed, but just say up to about 2 weeks or a week before, I didn't know where on earth we were going to stay in Sydney. I knew we were coming to Sydney Airport in March, and I don't know which direction to head from there. Like we had all our bags and everything wrapped up, and then where we thought we were going to stay, we got a phone call to say, look, they got a few things going on. We're like, we're not going to bother you. Don't worry about it. Before they, so we're like, okay. And then I called one of my relatives who lives here, and he lives in McMahon's Point, with his apartment, 2-bedroom. Yeah, in a 2-bedroom. And he's like, look, you can stay in my 2nd bedroom, but like, and just get on your feet, but please do it quickly, essentially. So I'm actually very grateful to this day, because that just gave us a platform to land on.
I wanted to know. I mean, it must be hard coming and you don't know anybody. At least there was somebody that you knew, right? And that helped you a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah. So this is a relative of mine, and I probably didn't like. I hardly like we're close, but we're not like so close that like I chat with him every week.
Like you would take your 2nd bedroom, right?
Yeah, but then he's like, you know what, your family just come in, find your feet, and and then we didn't know what to do or where to go, so we ended up finding a 1-bedroom apartment in McMahon's Point for the 3 of us to rent, and we said, okay, let's get a 3-month lease, and it turns out there was a little double bed, not even a queen bed, in that apartment, and there was 3 of us, so we had a little mattress on the floor for my son. Yeah, and then just worked it up from there. Actually, I ended up staying there for a good few years. Yeah.
It's a nice spot, though.
It's a beautiful spot.
You say you stayed there for a good few years. I'm sure not in the same double bed, right?
We stayed in the same double bed until 2017, 2018.
Wow, yeah. Wow,
Because,
yeah.
like we knew our cash flow, this is how it's working. This is, we got into a comfortable rhythm, and then...
So I'm going to stop you here. So you come from 2 BMWs, big house, your own firm.
Well,
you've
it's townhouse, so...
Oh, whatever. I mean, compared to a 1-bedroom, right? Okay. So but you come from that and you move into essentially a double bed, small place, trying to find your feet. Were there times and days that you said, oh my goodness, this is just too hard? Or how did you guys feel about it? I mean, your wife was already, it was hard for her to come across, right? And so...
My wife, if I said we're going to Joburg, she would jump on the plane immediately. But for me, no, I never felt, oh my goodness, it's too hard. I just said, no, we've decided on this, we need to persevere.
No, but you were doing nothing. You were just studying. Come here.
I was looking for work as well, but yeah. Well,
sorry, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
I did pass my subjects with distinction, so
yeah. Okay, that's good. So you did do work, yeah. So I can imagine, because it's not easy. And so, how did you get over that? What was the things that you told each other?
So with my wife, it's like, please, can we go back? And please, I want to go back. I left my family behind. And for me, I'm like, it was hard. I was just being stubborn about it. I was like, no, just stay here. Just get going. Let's just get the papers. Let's get the citizenship, and let's see what's, and then we can decide from there. And but I think we should actually stay here and actually build something here. I mean, and I get it. She was very upset about leaving her parents and leaving what was her routine, and because it's her routine, it was comfortable to do something completely well and truly out of comfort zone. And the stress got to a severe level.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So in 2016, we actually found out we were pregnant, and we were about 12 weeks in. We had the scan, everything was good. Then we went to Royal North Shore for another scan and a follow-up, and they couldn't find the fetus. And
sure.
When they
Sorry
did,
to hear that.
Yeah, thanks. There was no heartbeat when they did, so we had a miscarriage in that first year. So that first year was very rough. So yeah, my wife was devastated. I guess the one good thing that did come from that is I managed to get her parents to drop everything, get on the plane, and come over. And then when they came over, they actually saw the place. And once they saw the place, they're like, okay, this is actually not it's a nice place.
I mean, there are nice Australians, they said, yes.
Yeah, well, they still live there in Joburg, but they managed to see what it is I was talking about when I said it's a different lifestyle, life altogether. And
So did the conversation then change a little bit? Because I sense that, it was difficult for your wife to come. I mean, then you had a real tragedy. Also, at the same time, I'm sure her parents were kind of saying to her, probably in a nice way, there's always a place for you here if you want to come back. We miss you, all of that sort of thing. So did
they were a
that?
lot more expressive than that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to be nice. I can understand, and it's understandable. I've only got one son, and so my story is I moved to him here in Australia because I wasn't prepared to be for not having or not seeing him. But so then during this time, and so that when they came across, did that discussion change a little bit? Did it make it more comfortable?
It evolved. It didn't change like a light switch, but it evolved to acceptance, essentially. Like it evolved like, okay, look, I get it, I can see it, but you can still come back to job again. Like, you know what? No, we actually building something here, so let's.
So at what point did your wife because you're still here? I'm talking to you, you're in Sydney, right?
Yeah.
And so at what point did the things change a little bit where you sort of felt more comfortable, your wife felt more comfortable, or did it happen?
Yeah, I guess we actually felt a lot more settled about 2 years in, and everyone says 2 years in. I'm like, yeah, but there's something to it. Like 2 years in, we actually felt more settled. We got into a routine, got into a rhythm. I was working again. My child had his education, and everyone was kind of settled. And then once we get into your routine and rhythm, then everything starts to feel a little bit more easier and palatable. Yeah, so.
So at that stage, were you working for somebody, or were you on your own already?
Funny enough, I was working for no pay. I was working just to put things on the CV so I can get a job that actually paid
Wow.
quite well.
Okay.
Because I was qualified in South Africa, and I put my CV out there. They were, and I ran my own business over there. So how do you verify that? Essentially, it was difficult for me to find paid work, so I had to put a few things on the CV. So I worked for various law firms just to get something up there. Under the PLT, which is the training thing. But once I did, eventually I got a job at a smaller firm. But I always wanted to get back to where I left off, and that was in about 2018. May 2018, we were expecting our daughter, and she was born in July, and I started a firm, Soni Legal. I went to the law society, and I'm like, just please give me the permission to open up the firm. Here's all my trust account orders from Johannesburg. Everything is clean. Here's all my references, whatever it is. And they gave me the permission to go ahead and they gave me so there's tiers of practicing certificates, and they allow me to get the principal's practicing certificate. So I had to do the mandatory courses in order to get it. But once I did, I'm like, great, now I can start up. And the difference is Joburg, I had a network to start from. Sydney, I had no network. So I had to cold call people. I had to target my clients and just get the coffee date, essentially, and tell them who I am, and just give me something, give me some work. And then eventually some things came, and then they saw the quality of the work, and they're like, yeah, okay, no, and it started to build up from there. So my daughter is now 7. The law firm is now 7. It's still running, so it's working.
So you've been here almost 10 years now, right? 8, 9, 8.
10 years next year.
And it's amazing when we speak to a lot of the people we speak to, they will tell you that it takes about 10 years to feel like you've more comfortable, things are working out, and I'm sure that's the same for you.
Yeah, no, I definitely see, like, now we settled here, like, and I've noticed this also with my wife, because every time she said back home, she meant Joburg, over here. And we went recently to South Africa, and she was saying back home, and she was meaning Sydney.
All right. And you then kept quiet, and you were just happy in your own heart, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think you're right. There's like 2 years, there's a bit of a switch. But I think before you really get comfortable between 7 and 10 years, you just have to be patient. And that's just a lot of people I spoke to and my own experience, there is something about 2 years, but it's still work to do before you get to like the 7-10 years, and then it becomes you settle down.
Yeah. And I think once you find your friends, you make friends
Yeah.
as you go along, and then that makes it a lot more easier. And
So maybe just to, I want to wrap up this conversation. It's just flown past. Your story has got all the ingredients of a hero's journey, if I can put it that way. What would your advice be for people in your shoes, your type of shoes, to come across? What would you tell them to do?
it all goes back to your mindset. The whole reason I'm talking to you from Sydney here today is because I just kept my mindset as, look at the bigger picture. What do I actually want? Am I willing to endure the pain now for the gain later? And just put your head down and do the work and endure it, because that's essentially what you're going to have to do. And do not expect a parallel shift from, I was in this position here in South Africa, I'm going to be in this position now, you're going to go like somewhere down here.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah. And that takes time, it takes effort, it'll take a lot out of you, but it's all manageable on your mindset. If you say, look, by bigger picture, I'm heading there.
Right, and hard work, right?
A lot of hard work, and I guess it's the way you approach it. If you think, oh no, this is actually fun for some odd reason, then it'll be fun.
But I love what you said earlier, and I say hard work because you come across as a person who's very determined, know what you want, and work hard. And I say why I know you work hard because you said, well, if I worked over the weekend and so on. But the one thing that you said earlier when your dad called you and you said to you, well, why don't you go to Sydney? You said, I took a whole half day off to go and think about it. And I thought, okay, for somebody to say that, they work really hard, that they actually have to say they take a half day off to go and think about their future. So, and it's been fantastic talking to you. It's been a privilege to hear this. I didn't, some of the things that you told us are very, very funny, but some of the things must have been incredibly challenging for you and your wife, and you stuck it out, and I take my hat off. So it's been a great conversation.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, no, great to meet you. Great chat. I think just on a parting note, give us what's the thing that you most enjoy now? What's the thing that you really enjoy in your life living here in Australia?
I think going to my son's rugby games.
All right.
So, we still have rugby. They call it rugby union, and there's a few other rugbies I don't really know about. There's I know. To me, it's all there's only one type of rugby, and my son is playing the proper rugby, and he loves it. And just going to this game, and your kids will, for me, my kids are my priority. So
absolutely
backing them.
All right.
So how old is your son now?
He is 12.
Oh, okay. So he's a proper rugby player now.
Yeah, he only started rugby this is his second year playing rugby. He was playing soccer since he was 2, and his friends and come and play with the Wales.
Who's his favorite rugby player?
Oh, I don't know
He
who's
looks up to.
But I'll tell you this: we went to New Zealand,
Yeah.
and we did the All Blacks thing that they had in Auckland, that showcase. And we come out, and I was like, okay, well, that's nice. And my son asked me, hey, can you get me an All Blacks t-shirt? I'm like, you are South African born, you live in Australia, and you're asking for All Blacks t-shirts. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So he's got an Aussie t-shirt one, and I bought him a South African one this last year.
Okay. So
There you go.
it depends who plays, right?
Well, if the Springboks are playing, you're wearing the green and gold. It doesn't matter. But if it's the Wallabies with anyone else, then we were the gold one.
No, perfect.
Yeah, well, on that note, so it's just wonderful. A great story. Really enjoyed it. Kaveer, it's been a privilege talking to you. Thank you very much.
You too, Ben and Anton. Thank you so much.